Hey everybody! Well, today I thought we could take a look at another one of these cool kits from Timberkits. Now, I did a video just recently about one of their kits, which was the drummer, which was a fantastic automaton. So they had this one too, which caught my eye. So this is called the Chuffy train. Now, I think this one is less difficult than the drummer. And as I mentioned in that video, they have 4 different categories of difficulty for these kits. And I think this is one of their easiest ones, but I think it's really neat. You can see the little train goes around and around this little track. You turn the crank. It's got the little mechanism to make everything move. There's a car and a couple of houses in there, which is very nice. Here's the back. It just kind of shows you some of the parts, the way it looks. So I've had very nice experiences with these kits, or at least the one that I built before. So let's check out the parts in this. Alright, so let's take a look at what the parts look like for this. Get this box open right here. Ooh! Okay, so now this is very cool. So this is very similar to the way the drummer was done. I really love the presentation here. So this part here, these are actually stuck on here with some double stick tape, but they're all numbered. You can see like 19, 18, and so forth. And so you'll know which piece you're supposed to be getting. This one looks like it came loose a little bit. We'll just put it right back in there. Same with these. But they're numbered, and that makes it a lot easier. This is really cool too. This is the little dowels and pieces like that. You can hear it's like a little envelope, and they also have a little thing here that shows you the sizes of the pieces. So the pieces that are inside here, you can just match them up to this picture, and then you'll know which one it is, because it says like 5 millimeters by 20 millimeters, and that makes it really handy in case you get confused, because some of the pieces are very similar to the others where their measurements are the same. This looks like I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so let's see if I can pull this piece out. So the bigger pieces are always underneath here. Okay, so, ooh, okay. I gotta say, I'm really hooked on these right now. Just because of I don't know, it just seems like they're very good quality. Here's the instructions. They also give you these nice little rulers to help you out if you need to measure any of these pieces. These things here are for if you have to glue one of the rings that kind of holds everything together. It keeps the glue from seeping down onto the part that moves. Very clever right there. They also give you a nice little bit of glue right here, kind of an Elmer's type of glue. And here we got some nice printed parts. You can see there's an ice cream parlor right there. This is very cool. There's a tree. Oh, that's what that was. Oh, that's neat. Look at that. It's probably like the main cog that turns the train. Here you can see the ring that makes up the tracks, and here are the tracks themselves. Now, you can paint these if you want. You can most certainly paint these if you want to. I haven't done that yet, mainly because I'm just worried about it interfering with the actual mechanism of it all, but I suppose if you just do it carefully. There's a lot of nice parts in here. There's a little piece of sandpaper. Look at this cool little house. That's great. There's another inner part of the track. So the wheels of the train are actually going to roll on this. So it might be kind of cool to paint the rails maybe silver and maybe brown for the little railroad ties there. Look at this cool mechanism. Oh, there's a neat little car. Look at that. Looks like a little beetle. That's cool. Here's a nice big piece here for the main wheel that goes around. And a couple of other little parts. And they also give you these nice wax crayons, which is great. You need to rub this on parts that where the wood rubs together. Not all the kits are providing that wax crayon, and they really should. This is essential. I mean, you know, where else are you going to get something like that? At least the clear crayon that doesn't have color. So very nice parts. All right, well, I can't wait to get started on this. All right, so I got quite a bit done so far on the base. It's pretty easy to put together for the most part. There's just a lot of pieces and stuff that go in here. But now there's a couple things to mention at this point. So when you are building this whole section, you'll get to page 11. Now there was a little addendum added to the instructions. It was like an extra piece of paper, and it mentions that 2 of the pieces, 9 and 7, were mislabeled on the parts page. And then also this little balloon right here, I cut it out. You can see it wasn't part of the original instructions right there. So they said to add this to the bottom of page 11, and what that tells you to do is that it tells you to glue the 9mm by 63mm post that comes through part 5. So that 9mm post is right here. So you do that earlier. Now you do glue it to this solid piece, which is that one right here. You'll see it right there. But you don't glue it to this part until later. See, it tells you not to glue that, and it says right here, part 4 needs to be able to turn freely so that it can be positioned correctly in section 11. Alright, so when you do finally get to section 11, what they mean by that is that hole right on this piece right here, that's got to line up with these two holes, but they don't remind you to do that at this point. They just tell you to go ahead and glue that. So when you are at this stage, make sure that you line up that hole, because what happens is this crank that turns the whole thing, this block that goes into this part right here, that's got to line up with that hole right there. And that's how the whole thing works. But it doesn't tell you, again, it doesn't remind you to do that. So I had already glued the this bottom piece right here to that middle post. You can see it right there. And so by that time, thankfully, the glue was still just wet enough that I could turn that middle cylinder right there to get that hole matched up right there. So yeah, that was really tricky, and I was like, oh, why didn't they mention that earlier? And they did mention it, but they don't remind you again when you get to this point, because by this time, you've forgotten all about it. Alright, so another part is, when you are putting this outer ring on here, the wood right here might be just a little bit warped, just a little bit. It probably won't be perfect, so when you glue this on, it's a little tricky to glue it onto these leg pieces. So just take some tape and really tightly just pull this onto here, and then that way you'll get a nice tight connection point here and here. And same with this, because otherwise you'll have, you can push this part down and then maybe this one over here is sticking up on this side. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit tricky. And then I put a little bit of extra glue on those joints too, just to make sure that there's no, see right there, if I can focus on it, down here. And when I can get in these little corners, because the tape's in the way, I'll well, not super glue, but just glue that part as well. So that kind of just makes it reinforced. You don't want everything to fall off. See, I got it on this side here too, and on the upper part. Alright, so yeah, a little bit tricky right there, but for the most part everything went together, and just keep an eye on that part of the instructions. Very tricky. Okay, so I was not going to paint this thing. I was just going to leave it plain. But the more I kept looking at it, the more I realized it really does need color, and it really makes it look a whole lot better. So you can see what I've done here. I've just kind of added some grass or whatever onto the tracks, and some I've added silver to the tracks themselves, the rails, and brown for the ties. And you know, you don't have to be fancy with this thing. It's kind of, I'm just using craft paint. I just use kind of 2 different tones of green in there. And, you know, if you get out of the lines, it's okay, because this thing is kind of one of those craft type things. It's not like a professional model that you're putting together, and that's fine. And so when it comes to this stuff down here, you can see I'm going to make the engine red, and I decided to just kind of add some little windows on here just to give it some kind of other detail. I'm going to glue it there. That's why I left that plain. That's the front right here. Oh, I was going to add a little, I think I'm going to add a little light or something on the front here, just a white dot. The wheels, I just made them silver, and the tree, I think the tree turned out pretty decent. I used 2 different shades of green, and then I used a felt tip marker to bring out the highlights that are engraved in there. And then here's the passenger cars. Just kind of something simple, you know, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Here's the wheels getting ready to be put in, and then that's the bottom of the engine. The car, I decided to kind of give it a metallic color, and then just kind of do the windows. This side, let's see, which side is it? Well, this side had the detail on it, and this side doesn't. So I kind of had to try to, you know, do it freehand. So it looks a little sloppy there, but and also all of these don't have printing on the back. So this house is the same way. It has the engraved parts here, but back here it doesn't have anything. So I just kind of left it plain because you're not really going to see a whole lot of that anyway. And then here's the little ice cream shop. And I like that little cat in the front. That's pretty cool. And then the back doesn't have anything, so I just put a single door back there. But yeah, I think it looks better. It's better than just leaving them, you know, plain. Let's see, do these have any kind of... These had no pattern at all on them. So, yeah, and neither did the engine. I think that's kind of plain as well. So, you know, you're free to do whatever you want with it. And that's what's kind of the fun part of this. You know, you can just kind of do whatever you want, add whatever colors you want. And, yeah, I think it turned out much better. All right, I think I'm finally down to the final assembly, and then we should be able to have this thing working. Alrighty, so here it is all together now, and yes, adding color to this definitely made it look a lot better. Yeah, I mean, you can leave it plain if you want to. It's strictly up to you if you want to paint it. Mine is a little bit wobbly, just a little bit. It's gonna be hard to get this perfect because, you know, being a wood kit, they are not always, pieces aren't always cut perfectly, and it's probably something I put together incorrectly or something. But it looks really good. I love that little town back there and the little tree and the car. So when we turn the crank here, now I made mine so that I crank it counterclockwise. So here you can see how the train goes around. It works, at least for mine, it works a little bit better going counterclockwise. I'd prefer to turn it the other way, but I don't know, it just seems like it works a little better this way. But you can see how cool the little train is. Look at that. The wheels actually do turn. This one here is a little stuck. Okay, there we go. So the wheels do turn on the actual train cars, and I love that they actually roll on the rails of the tracks. It's kind of a neat little thing. Oh man, I love this little set. This was fun to put together, and I love the results. Very, very cool. You can kind of see how the whole thing looks right here. Now there's something I wanted to point out with this right here, so let me show you a close-up of that part. Okay, so you might have to do some modifications with this, and that's kind of typical for any of these models where you got a lot of moving parts in it. So this section right under here, now let me see if I can get in here. Let me zoom in. Now you'll notice, let me see if I can focus. Focus on there. Now you'll notice how I cut out a little bit right up here. See how there's a little bit of wood? I had to take a Dremel and kind of gouge that out, and that is because when I bring this is the mechanism that moves the train. You can see this little arm moving, and it kept bumping right there. See how it would bump into that leg, and it would get stuck. Now, I'm sure it's because I didn't glue this exactly correct, and sometimes there is flaws in the wood as well. So just expect to make some modifications, and what, you know, I mean, it was something simple. It was just getting stuck right there, so you just carve away some of the wood. I just used a Dremel, and that makes it move just fine. So yeah, you know, it's not going to be perfect, you know, maybe you'll have better luck and have it perfect when you're done building it. But just expect that there might be some things that you might have to kind of fix here and there. Another adjustment that I had to make is you'll notice this gap that runs between the tracks. So that's how the train moves through there. So it's a little bit wider on this side versus if you come around here and it's a little bit narrower over here. That's because you may not be able to get this whole center plate exactly in the middle. Like if you push on it this way, you can see it widens just a little bit. So what I had to do is it was causing problems for the trains to go through here. So you see these little posts sticking out? Those little posts go on the outside of that little arm that moves in here. So if I move the, see how that moves right there? So what was happening is because this is narrower of a gap, these posts were getting stuck. So what I had to do is I had to kind of sand them down on the sides, see if I can focus it on here, but they're a little bit narrower. I had to kind of see if I can do this with a close-up here. You can kind of see at the tips here, I had to kind of sand down the sides so that they're a little more flat. And then that way, it fits inside here better. So let me line that up to this, that mechanism on the inside, like that. So now when it goes through that narrower section, it'll still fit. So let me go this way. So now you can see it's moving just fine. So yeah, so it's going to be little things like that. So if things are getting stuck, just kind of look at it and see what's getting stuck on what, and then just make the adjustments that are necessary. The good thing about this being wood is that wood is very easy to work with, so you can always shave off bits or sand off parts that need to be, you know, thinner or whatever, and that makes it work a whole lot better. So there we have it, the Chuffy train, as it's called. I got this from Timberkits, a really cool company that makes a lot of really neat wood kits. As I mentioned, I already did a couple of videos on some of their kits. I have another one that I'll be doing. It's a little race car, and there's a bunch of other kits in there I think that I'm going to end up buying as well, because I just think these kits are fantastic. They're fun to build, they go together really nice, and I'm really glad I painted this one. I think this particular kit would benefit from a paint job. I mean, you don't have to paint these if you don't want to, but this little train set is so awesome. I love it. So I'll put a link in the description. I think I paid about $42 for this. The prices are in pounds, so I had to kind of convert it. So I think it's about $42. And I think Amazon sells a few of these sets too. I don't think they sell all of them, but they sell some of them. And but they shipped it pretty quick. Timberkits actually shipped this pretty quick. Once again, you can make the train go the other way too. You don't have to have it going in just one direction. So that's another nice thing. But I love this thing. I think they did a great job. I love this little courtyard area that they kind of added in here with the buildings and the car and the tree. Just a fun little thing to put together. Only took maybe, you know, the whole day. Well, for me, it took a day to put together. But when you're going to paint it, it's of course going to add more time. And you can go all out. You can probably add like little, like model railroad bushes, or maybe even little buildings in there. I mean, whatever you want, whatever you want to do with this, it's ripe for modification. All right, well, that's it for this video. I hope you appreciate it. I will put a link in the description for the website, and you can just check this out. Or for this particular kit, you can check out what else they got in there too. But thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate your viewership, and I will see you on the next video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you'd like. I'd really appreciate that, and I'll see you on the next video. So thanks again, and have a good one.